Hey guys, how's it going? All right, so today what we ended up doing was instead of buying more hard drives for Chia, because of the recent news release that Ethereum 2.0 is not going to be uh, available until at least June next year. So that gives us another 6 months of mining. I ended up buying another graphics card. So today what we do is we go and we install that new graphics card into Viper, which has the space for it. And then we also do a full review of all of my servers and what's in them and what they mine and whatnot. So stay tuned for the install of the new graphics card. We ended up having to do a whole bunch of stuff with the BIOS. So we had to update everything. It was not seeing it because of the PCIe resources were not there. But we got it to work finally, and unfortunately it turned out to be an LHR 3070. Okay, so it's going about 41 mega hash, but anyways, it's in there, it's working. It's not going at 62 mega hash, but anyways, stay tuned. I hope you like it and you enjoy my rack. All right, guys, so today we actually purchased another 3070. Uh, I was really debating on getting a couple more hard drives for Chia, but 3 hard drives at 16 terabytes equals about 13070. Now, they just released the information that ETH 2.0 will not be a thing until at least June next year, so that gives us at least another 6 months of mining, and this card should pay itself back within 6 months. So we've got a riser card here that we're going to be using, this card, and then we have to figure out where we're going to be installing it in this rack. Now I only have really one server that can house more graphics cards, and that is Viper. So we're going to open up Viper, and I'm going to show you guys where we're going to put it. So this is Viper. It's only got 4 cards in it, so that means that we have a lot of space, extra space anyways. This should be coming out a little bit more. There we go. So we've got 4 cards here, and they're all actually currently being used on a single 4 SATA expansion. So there's a lot of room for expansion here. We could use this express lane, that express lane. There's 3 extra express lanes. So to put in 1 extra card, it's not going to be too hard. I'm just going to shimmy these over a little bit and then insert the new card. And the power is all going to be on this 1200 watt power supply, which is here. So that means the riser and the GPU is going to be all on this power supply. So it should be a really easy, quick, just toss it in and boot it up, but nothing ever happens that way. So wish me luck. I'll do a couple of seconds of videos of me unboxing, and then we'll get to it. Alright guys, we're going to be opening up this XC3 Ultra EVGA 3070. I have a couple of these. I have a couple of these already in the system. I think I have 2 actually of these things, and they're pretty good. The thermals are great, and the size is great too. It's a 2-slot card. It's not a 3-slot card, so it does save some space in terms of the width. So that's good, and we could definitely use that because right now all of the cards in Viper are 3-slot graphics cards, except for I believe I have another one of these EVGAs in there. So let's go ahead and take this out. This is obviously very difficult as I'm standing behind the camera trying to do this for you guys. So there we go. So we've got the card here. very basic setup. Let's open it up. You've got your manual, which we don't really need. And then you've got le piece de résistance. Here it is. So it comes with basically a plastic shroud around it, which you got to take off. There's also a plastic shroud on the back that you have to take off as well. Otherwise, the thermals will not work very well, and it may actually melt the card because it won't have any exhaust out the back of the back. So we'll do that nice peel. Keep it in there, and then I'm going to just take this off of the front. There we go. There you have it. It's a 3-fan exhausts out the top, and two 8-pin connector. So it's a little bit of power hog, but it's not terrible. And now we're just going to toss it in the case. Really, really simple. All right, perfect. So you can actually see I already have a very similar EVGA card in there, right there. I think it's actually the exact same card, to be honest. Yep, it is the exact same card. So we're just going to end up tossing this one in there, shutting her off, putting on the riser, and recabling everything. So here we go. Oh my God. All right. This looks fantastic, although it took me hell and high water to get this to recognize all 5. So I was running into a PCI resource issue, ended up having to update the BIOS and do a whole bunch of disabling of certain things in the BIOS to give it enough resources to have all 5 show up, which are now showing up, which is excellent. We haven't started mining on it yet, but we're going to go test that now. This is the first time that I've actually been able to see all 5 cards on this motherboard. So there was no quick, simple enable 4G and above on this BIOS, but we did update the BIOS and we did disable a whole bunch of stuff, and we did increase some of the PCIe lanes. Anyways, it's working now, so we're going to test out some of the mining on it with these new with this new card, and we'll see how that goes. All right, now that we have that final card in, I'm going to be doing a review of the servers that I've built, what's in them, what they're running, and what they're mining. So the first thing that we have is I've got gigabit Ethernet. So attached to this switch here, which you can't see any of the LEDs, is a 2.5 gigabit switch, and I only have one computer that has 2.5 gigabit capabilities, which is my Plex download server. All of my connections in the house are hardwired. I think they all come from everywhere in the house, so like TV, bedrooms, all that stuff is hardwired. So there's quite a few things that are hardwired here. If you move down, I've got a Lenovo laptop which has 32 gigs of RAM, an i7 processor with a Quadro, this is the Plex media server. So this is basically what I use for hosting Plex, but it's connected down to a storage server, which we'll get to in a second. So first one we're going to take a look at here is Viper. So this is the one that we just finished installing new graphics cards into, and I'm going to try and take this off with one hand. So this is the one that we just finished setting up. It's got 5 3070s in it. It's got 2 Aorus 3070s, 2 EVGAs, and 1 Asus 3070. And I was able to actually build this case. I created this bracket here for the graphics cards to sit on top. I originally started drilling holes for the graphics cards, but I realized that I wasn't sure what I was going to be having in here with the spacing, so I ended up just zip tying the graphics cards to this brace here, which I drilled some holes to have it steady here. You can see underneath there's a piece of wood that these are all sitting on top of so that they're flush, and the riser cards sit on top of those. Moving to the back, there's a ton of airflow in this. This has a huge CFM fan here, as well as two 120 millimeters and a 80 millimeter mid-plate fan. So starting from the front, we've got three 120 millimeter high CFM fans blowing through the cards, and then we've got two 120s and 180. And the reason why I had to do an 80 and I couldn't do another 120 is because it wouldn't fit down onto the motherboard. This is just a bracket that I created as well from one of the builds. It was just a spare piece of metal, so I was able to put it on here to brace all these fans here. And then there's two 80 millimeters and a 120 here. They're just pushing the air out. The CPU is, I believe it's an i5. It's not too fast of a CPU, but for this purpose, all it's doing is mining, and that's all I needed for this rig. So that's Viper, and I think I'm pretty much well done with anything on this server. In theory, I could add another card, but because these are so thick, these three cards are so thick, they kind of take up all the space, as you can see. This is a 1400 watt power supply, HP power supply. That 1400 watt power supply powers all the graphics cards and the risers. So the only thing that this 750 watt power supply, which is an overkill, is powering is the motherboard. So that is definitely an overkill. I could probably repurpose that into another server if I need to. Okay, moving on to the next server. This is Goose. This was my first rack mount server. It's a smaller chassis, and originally it had four GPUs installed into it. I had a bracket here and a bracket over here, where one GPU was here and another one was here. Since obviously have upgraded several different things, but this server is actually just packed to the brim, and the temperatures are great. So we'll go from the front back. We got two 120 millimeter fans blowing through the drive cages. Each one of these drive cages has 4 drives in them, so for a total of 120 terabytes of raw storage. So this is where a lot of my Chia resides. In fact, all Chia here. And moving forward to the back, the reason why these two Zotac cards are in this case is because they're the only ones that blow the air out the back. So the air comes in the side and then it shoots it out the back here. I couldn't have that in this case because that would be blowing air towards the front. So this actually works out perfect. I was able to use a 750 watt power supply to power both of those graphics cards along with the 12 hard drives here. You can see there I'm using a SATA expansion to connect all of these drives. It's a 6 SATA splitter, so there's 6 SATAs on there plus the 8 SATA ports on the motherboard, and that's how we got well, there's 13 drives. One is the OS, but the 12 drives here showing up. So this is a jam-packed system, and the temperatures are actually really good. So I'm really happy with it. I'll toss on the screen the hash rates of these two cards, and it just goes. I love this machine. It's perfectly configured, and I never have to really worry about it. Now this is my all-time favorite server. This server's name is Maverick, and it's a beast. It's got six 3070s in it. 3 of them are Founders Edition. These 2 actually are Dell 3070s, which work out great. As you can tell, all of these graphics cards here only take one 8-pin connection, so the power usage on this is very low for the number of graphics cards that are in here. And then there's the another 3070 EVGA. Again, with the 3 front 120mm fans blowing air through. Another 1400 watt power supply that powers all of the graphics cards. A mid plate of 5 80mm fans that has really good, I mean, you can feel the heat, it's just pumping it right through. Inside here is another i7 3930K, I believe, and that is just a beast. All of the riser cards are connected to 6 ports, 6 PCIe ports, and that is a 1 terabyte NVMe, which I was using for plotting. At the back there's 4 80mm fans, which just rips out the hot air. I only needed a 500 watt power supply for this because everything is being powered by this 1400 watt HP server. And this is just my favorite server because I was able to buy it. This came with the prefabbed graphics card bracket, so I really didn't have to do a lot of work. It also came with that mid plate here where I didn't have to customize a mid plate. It was just already built into the server chassis. So this is my favorite computer just because I never have to do anything with it. It just works and goes, and all the cards are cool, and it's just excellent. All right, and last but not least is Iceman. So if you've seen my videos, you saw me building this and putting this together. This replaced an IBM 3650 with 6 drives in it because I needed room for expansion. And this is my main Plex storage server, but also it's got 85 terabytes of Chia plots as well. So I bought this case, the smaller case. I got it for fairly cheap with someone on Kijiji. Again, the 320mm fans in the front, blowing across all the hard drive cages. I've got tons of room for 4 more drives in here. I would have to rejig things to get 2 more over here, but 2 empty slots here, and then I'd have to re-sled those ones. This is a 10 slot PCIe SATA expansion, so that gives me the ability to have the 4 extra slots, which I eventually, if I needed, I would toss them into here. That's just an NVMe SSD that I was plotting with, which I no longer need to because I'm full on all of my stuff. And the final piece is just 2 80mm fans at the back. There's not too much heat in this computer because it's just all hard drives, and there's a ton of space in here for future expansion. So that's the last server in the rack, and this is basically going to be the one that houses a little bit more storage. This is my final storage server, so I'll be able to put 4 more drives in there eventually if ever need be. Alright, so that's the full rack tour. The 4 4U servers that I've built. I do have space to have an additional 4U server at the bottom. I would just basically move these up to underneath my shelf there, and then eventually I could actually slip in, I've already measured it, I could put in another 4U server there if I do the spacing, but that is for another year for sure. And yep, I hope you enjoyed this tour. Let me know if you guys want to see anything else, and I'll be posting up some pictures and videos up here in the corner that you guys can take a look at. But thanks for viewing this, and hopefully I have some upgrades coming for you guys soon.